A single sheet of paper once decided the fate of a castle. Not a sword, not an army. A folded scrap of paper, carried by a man no guard bothered to stop. He looked like a peddler. He smelled of the road, of horse and river mud, and he carried a basket of cheap combs and needles that no one wanted to search. He counted the torches burning on the walls. He counted the faces at the gate, the horses in the yard, the sacks of rice stacked in the storehouse. Then he bowed, and he walked back out through the same gate he had walked in. Weeks later, the castle changed hands almost without a fight, and no one ever learned his name. Now close your eyes and picture a ninja. You already have the image: black hood, black mask, a straight blade slung across the back, a body folding down into the dark until it disappears. Hold that picture in your mind, because almost nothing in it is real. The man who actually decided that castle's fate wore no mask at all. He wore the dust of an ordinary traveler, and that was the whole point. To understand why, you have to walk backward, out of the film, out of the video game, out of the comic book, back through 400 years, until you reach a pair of quiet mountain provinces where the real ones lived. Start with the picture you were handed. The all-black assassin you imagine is barely older than your grandparents. He was built in the 20th century, on cinema screens and in pulp novels, and then carried around the world by television and games. He is thrilling. He is also a costume. Step back one more layer into the Edo period, the long piece that began in 1603. On the kabuki stage, playwrights needed a way to show a killer appearing from nowhere, so they borrowed a trick the audience already understood. In the theater, the stagehands who moved props during a scene dressed entirely in black. They were called kuroko, the black ones, and everyone silently agreed to pretend they were invisible. When a playwright wanted an assassin to strike out of thin air, he simply dressed the actor as a kuroko. The audience read the black cloth as unseen, and a legend was born on stage, not on any battlefield. So the mask is theater, the shadow is theater. Peel them away, and the real figure standing underneath is stranger and quieter than the costume that hides him. Now step all the way back into the Age of War. For more than a century, from the late 14th century onward, Japan tore itself apart. The central government rotted.
Regional warlords, the daimyo, carved the country into dozens of rival domains and fought without pause. This was the sengoku period, the age of the country at war, and in it, a single piece of accurate information could be worth more than 1,000 spearmen. Two small provinces became famous for supplying exactly that. Iga sat hidden in a ring of mountains, poor in rice and awkward to invade. Just over the ridgeline lay Koga, sometimes read as Koga. Neither province had a great lord ruling it. Instead, Iga was run by leagues of local families who governed themselves and hired themselves out. And what they sold was not muscle, it was knowledge. They called themselves shinobi. The word is built from the idea of stealing in, and also of enduring, of bearing the unbearable in silence. Shinobi no mono. The same two characters, read a different way, give you the word ninja, but almost no one used that reading until the modern age. To the warlords who paid them, these people were not fantasy assassins. They were the eyes and ears you sent where your soldiers could not go. Think again about what that peddler did. He did not kill anyone. He counted things. He listened. He noticed which gate was guarded by tired men, and which storehouse was running low. Then he brought that back, and someone who could read a map turned it into a plan. That was the real weapon, not the blade. The blade was almost an afterthought. Ask yourself the question everyone asks about the ninja. How did they fight? How did they kill? That is the wrong question. The record barely answers it, because killing was rarely the job. Ask instead what they knew, and how they came to know it, and suddenly the whole strange profession snaps into focus. Their true skills were mundane, and that is what made them deadly. Patience first, the ability to sit in one spot for a day and a night without moving, watching. Disguise, second. Manuals list a handful of ordinary roles a shinobi could slip into without drawing a glance. A wandering monk, a traveling entertainer, a merchant, a farmer bent over a field beside the road. You do not remember the farmer you passed this morning, neither did the guards. And here's the counterintuitive truth at the center of all of it. The greatest shinobi left no story, because a story meant you had been seen. The ones we can name are in a sense the ones who slipped. The perfect operation looked like nothing happening at all. A gate left unbarred, a rumor that spread on its own.
A lord who simply changed his mind. So the more successful these people truly were, the less history remembers them. The silence is not a gap in the record. The silence is the record. That is why the masked assassin feels so satisfying, and why he is a lie. We invented a figure we could see, precisely because the real ones made a career of never being seen. But the record is not entirely silent. Twice, the mountain provinces stepped into the daylight, and both times tell you what these people actually were. The first time is a tragedy. In 1581, the warlord Oda Nobunaga, who was grinding all of Japan under one heel, finally turned his full army on Iga. This was the Tensho-Iga War. The self-governing families who had sold their skills to everyone else now had no great lord to shield them. Nobunaga's forces poured through the mountain passes and burned the province almost to the ground. Villages, temples, and fighters were destroyed together. The masters of hiding could not hide from an army of that size, and many of them died. The survivors scattered across Japan, carrying their skills to new masters, and one of those new masters was about to become the most important man in the country. His name was Tokugawa Ieyasu, and in 1582 he was caught in the open at the worst possible moment. That summer, Nobunaga was betrayed and killed in Kyoto at a temple called Honno-ji. In a single night, the balance of the whole country collapsed. Ieyasu was a long way from home, on the wrong side of hostile territory, with only a handful of men. If he was caught, his line ended there, and the future you know would never happen. The way home ran straight through the broken mountains of Iga. And the men of Iga and Koga, the very people Nobunaga had crushed the year before, guided him through it. They knew every path, every friendly household, every place to wait out a patrol. They moved him across the ridges and delivered him home alive. Historians still debate exactly how many guided him and how much later storytellers polished the tale, and that honest uncertainty is part of it, but the core is solid. At the hinge of Japanese history, the thing that saved the future ruler of Japan was not a great battle. It was local knowledge, quietly applied by people who knew the ground. Ieyasu did not forget. When he finally won everything and built his capital at Edo, the city that would become Tokyo, he brought shinobi into his service. He gave them a leader whose name you may already have know.
Hattori Hanzo, a warrior of Iga descent who had served him for years. A gate of the great castle was placed in Hanzo's keeping, and to this day one of the gates of the imperial palace in the center of Tokyo is called hanzomon, Hanzo's gate. Millions of people walk and drive past it every year. Once the wars ended, there were no more castles to count and no more armies to slip behind. The skills began to fade into memory, even as the legends began to grow. In 1676, deep in that peace, a man of Koga named Fujibayashi gathered what remained of the old knowledge into a vast manual. Its name, Bunsen Shukai, carries the image of 10,000 rivers flowing together into a single sea. You might expect a book of assassinations. That is not what it is. It opens with something closer to philosophy. It insists that the true shinobi is not a killer, but a person of correct heart and clear mind, that intelligence gathered without wisdom is worthless, and that the deepest technique of all is simply to be trusted. The manual devotes page after page to the mind, to weather, to timing, to the art of building rapport with a stranger, so that he tells you what you need without ever knowing he has. Read that, and look again at the peddler at the gate. He was not breaking in, he was being welcomed in. That is the real art, the black lacune buried. So consider the two figures, and ask yourself which one you would truly have feared. The assassin on the roof, blade drawn, whom at least you can see coming. Or the smiling traveler at your gate, holding a basket of combs, who already knows how many nights of rice you have left. Tell me which one you would rather have faced across a dark field. I already suspect your answer, and I suspect it is the wrong one. The costume, it turns out, was the least of it. The next time a ninja slides across your screen, hooded and armed and folding into shadow, look past the mask. The real one is not there. The real one is the figure in the corner of the frame you never look at twice. The monk, the merchant, the farmer at the edge of the road, watching, remembering, walking home. You were taught to fear the shadow. The people of Iga would have smiled at that. Their whole art was never being dark enough to notice at all. And the proof is still standing in the middle of Tokyo, a quiet gate with an old name, waiting for you to finally see it.